It's time for a deep dive on University of Portland basketball. The inside story on the Pilots. This is Portland Pilots basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau. Tonight's show is brought to you on 910 ESPN Portland by employee-owned Bi-Mart, by your local Les Schwab Tire Center, the Oregon College Savings Plan, by Buffalo Wild Wings, U.S. Bank, by Safeway, and by PlaySmart Health Screenings from Providence Heart and Vascular Institute. Now, here's your host, Jason Breaux.
Well, good evening. Welcome to the Pilot House here on campus. Jason Swigart sitting in for Jason Breaux this evening. Had a personal matter he needed to attend to. Happy to pitch in and come over here to the Pilot House. Always bustling with energy here. Campus back in. Of course, head coach Eric Reveneau with us. And I saw you getting the guys on camera over here. A few of the guys enjoying some dinner.
They're actually studying. I thought they were I was impressed. I went over there. Bryce and Max are over there on their computers and have finished up dinner on their computers, and they're both typing vigorously. And I said, what do you got, 7 o'clock class? He said, no, 7:10. I said, oh, you got to finish something up? I said, no, I'm trying to finish it for tomorrow. So it was something they're not even working on tonight's assignment. They're working on tomorrow's assignment already.
There you go, working ahead. And that's what we'll be really looking at here over the next hour. We'll recap the weekend in the Bay Area, Pacific, and in St. Mary's. We'll take a little mid-season assessment. West Coast Conference, we reached the midpoint, played everybody once already. Kind of get an assessment of the team, where some guys are, who's really starting to come on late, as well as the competition. It's really tight in the middle. We'll go through the standings. And then we'll look ahead to the games coming up this week. Also a special weekend, Coaches versus Cancer during the week, all over college basketball. You got some new sneakers for that?
We got some new sneakers. We're good to go. Kramer Knutsen's got us dialed in, so we're ready. I was issued my sneakers today, so I've got my my Coaches versus Cancer approved attire ready to go.
And then we'll look ahead to the game. San Francisco, Santa Clara, coming to the Childs Center Thursday night, Saturday night. Get your tickets now. You can call the box office or go online to portlandpilots.com for ticket information. And, of course, if you have a question for Coach Reveneau, you can give us a call, 503-542-0910 in the studio, or you can tweet us at Portland Pilots. Make sure you use the hashtag AskCoachRev. And, Coach Reveneau, we'll start with Pacific on Thursday night. Starting off the road trip, the team's still looking for their first conference road victory. Going into Pacific, an interesting place to play. My first visit down there, Childs Center, Pacific really were built, their arenas were built about the same, and you'd never know if you were looking in. It harkens back to the days of Hoosiers, the way they've got that thing set up. So an interesting place to play, dimly lit. Pacific was getting some of their better players back. Eric Thompson's second game back. And for some of the others, Cobre, he had missed the first several games as that investigation was going on, a sticky situation. So you knew going in, you really weren't sure kind of what you were going to see throughout that game. And unfortunately, kind of got off to a slow start. A lot of turnovers, and guys were really tight coming out of the game. When you see that happening, how quickly do you have to change gears from what the original game plan was and make sure you don't completely slide so far back you can never make it up?
It's interesting because, it's a long game, 40-minute game. You've got this intent to start off with a nice burst of energy. We've normally started well. This has been an interesting group because we've started game well, and then we've sort of had these lulls where teams can come back or and this one we started off poorly, and the turnovers were amazing. We don't turn the ball over very much as a team, and we had some really uncharacteristic, unforced turnovers, and poor Gabe just had some, in particular had some plays, and he was just one of those nights, and so he felt badly about it, and I actually made a sub there just for him, and I asked him about it afterwards. I said, were you ready to play? He said, yeah, no, do you feel good? You feel like, because I, as a player, remember those games where you're all hyped up, you feel good, and then all of a sudden something happens, and next thing you know, you're not, and then it just doesn't, it's not your game. And so I was sympathetic to his situation, but he was, got Jarrell in there and started rotating some lineups and stuff. But those are all part of the primary game plan. You pretty much stick with your game plan. And we had worked a lot on defense last week. That's still an area of concern for us, and rebounding in particular. We knew their rebounding team they'd be a formidable rebounding opponent, and we went with different lineups and different things, but we were trying to defend and rebound and get out and run. We ended up both, getting beat up in the post a little bit, putting them in the line too much. It was a very slow-paced game, and because of the free throws and everything, and I think it might have been our slowest-paced game of the year for us, and so they were able to control tempo. We were never able to get out and get going, and it had a funny feel of a game to it, but we were never able to get control.
And of course, and you mentioned first half, you were able to slowly dig your way back into it, get within 4 at 32-28. Neither team really shot the ball all that well in that game. And then the second half, after a quick run by Pacific to start, they pushed the lead, I think, back to 9 or 10. And then you were able to slowly grind your way back in from the 12-and-a-half-minute mark until the final minute. It was a one-possession game. Pilots had tied it up 4 different times, but you could never get over the hump and get the lead. Psychologically, how different would it have been if at one point you could have gotten a lead and gotten a 2-possession lead? How do you think that would have changed the dynamic of feeling like you got over the hump?
I think a point, maybe not as much, but like you said, a 2-possession game, all of a sudden you get to 4 or 5, 6 points, and then all of a sudden 4 points would have been over that psychological hump. Maybe not the 8-minute mark, which would have been nice, but even that, I felt like really like that last 4-3 where the game was kind of grinding out. There was a lot of free throws, some timeouts. They had a loose ball. They used a timeout, and I think that might have replaced the 4-minute media, if I remember correctly now. But there were some timeouts and some stoppage of play that made it really slow, and I think that it felt like a low possession game, and in low possession games, the value of each possession goes up, of course, and we just couldn't get over the hump. And I felt like we got some good looks. Felt like both games, to be honest, over the weekend, we executed our offense well. We actually executed some things very well on Thursday offensively. More of as Garrett Smith on our soccer side likes to say, we executed more of our set pieces, and had some more set stuff, not our motion and our transition game. We actually executed some set stuff that flows from our motion or our transition pretty well, and they did a good job with some things. So I saw some improvement there that got to some good shots, but we couldn't knock it down, and so that was pretty disappointing.
And then at the defensive end, they decided to go with Eric Thompson. They list him at, I think, 6'8", 240. Neither Jason or I were buying that. We were thinking more about 6'9", 255, more defensive end size. But I thought the guys all had a good approach, and Ray and Phil and Colin down there, and were up for the physical challenge. Whistles weren't exactly going their way, except for Phil drew one charge, finally just took a blow in the chest. But how do you encourage, the guys that they're doing the right thing, they're doing what you want to do, even though they're not getting the whistles? Well,
in that game, you're challenged to do it at a very high level. Challenged because they were going at us there, and we were getting Ray did his best job he's done all year of getting through some actions, cross screens. He actually drew a foul when they set an illegal screen on him. And he was moving his feet better and doing some things. He did a pretty good job on the ball. He had these fouls that guy was coming at him, and looking back on video and even talking to, we have a coordinator of officials group that manages our officials, and asking him some questions about defending the post afterwards. And maybe one or so of all the post calls out there, maybe 1 or 2 weren't correct, weren't accurate. But for the most part, they were good calls, and they just did a good job putting pressure on us. The ones that kill you are where you put your hands on them. You do Phil one time, put both hands on the guy, and they're just doing a good job of being consistent with that. And that's what coaches want, and it was frustrating, and I was disappointed with some of our post defense over the weekend in general, and we need more in that spot. And and more. We need to do a better job in those situations. But give them credit for going ass a little bit there. The rebounds and the scrums. There were some really big scrums, and we needed more guys getting involved, and we're going to need to continue to do that rebounding.
And it ended up being a 70-61 loss after being a 2-point game with about a minute to go. A lot of free throws down the stretch and some missed opportunities allowed that margin to get to 9. When we return here for the Coaches Show, we'll talk about St. Mary's, and it was a clinic that the Gales put on there Saturday night. But Alec Wintering did reach a milestone, reached 1,000 points in his career, and we'll talk a little bit about Alec and where he stands in the pantheon of Pilots players down the line. So if you want to give us a call, 543-542-0910, or you can shoot us a tweet at Portland Pilots, and make sure you use the hashtag AskCoachRev. As we continue on here with the UP Pilots Coaches Show from the Pilot House here on 910 ESPN Portland.
You're listening to Portland Pilots basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here's your host, Jason Bro.
Welcome back into the Pilot House here on the UP campus. Jason Swigart sitting in for Jason Bro tonight, here with head coach Eric Reveneau. And looking back on last week, we'll pick things up going to St. Mary's. The Gales, after coming back in miraculous fashion Thursday night to beat Gonzaga at home, take over sole possession of first place, you maybe thought, all right, maybe they'll relax a little bit and think, okay, we got the tough one here. And there was an opportunity to maybe come out, and no such luck with this St. Mary's team. 5 new starters, but still Randy Bennett, they look like they are 5 seniors. Anybody that faces them in the NCAA tournament is going to – that coach is going to pull his hair out as he starts to watch the film, because there's nothing that jumps off at you other than the fact that they're always in the right spot, they make the right pass at the right time and the right play, and just immensely efficient shooting the basketball.
No, they're very good. A couple things. You're exactly right on Coach Bennett. I mean, he's old school coach, very good. They established that Australian pipeline. They've got some very good players. They are. I told the guys, I said, I don't remember playing a better college basketball team when I was. And I'm talking about teams that I've coached in the Final Four, Elite Eight, Sweet 16. You know, and they're as good a basketball team, except for athleticism. You know,
Yeah.
and so as a basketball team right now, which proves the point. If the season was to end right now, well, right now they're the most efficient team in the country, and that's points per possession. They're the most efficient team in the country, and if the season was to end right now, they would be on record as the most efficient team in the last 14 years. So they're more efficient than everyone. And Coach Bennett, the thing about him is, I had a friend of mine said, he texted me, Mike Tuxedo, my guy down, he said to me the same idea, that maybe they'll overlook you. And I had to remind Tex that Coach Bennett's teams don't overlook people. Coach Bennett's teams are, you know, he's got them so, you know, he's got them. We beat them last year to get to the semifinals of the WCC tournament in Las Vegas. He won't let his team overlook us. He knew that was a trap game for us. I was proud of our guys' effort. I was disappointed with the rebounding and our post defense. Rebounding post defense weren't very good. We got to look at that. We played small a fair bit. That was interesting. We actually scored. Only one team has scored more points per possession against St. Mary's this year than us, and that was Gonzaga. So they had trouble. It wasn't just total points because of the fast pace, but points per possession. Our offense was clicking pretty well. Unfortunately, around 13 or 14 teams have guarded them better, you know. And but they're 15-0 at home. It's got a tremendous scheduling. To 15-0, I saw today. Are the others the BYU is the other undefeated team at home, and Pepperdine's undefeated at home. Pepperdine is 8-0, and BYU's 9-0. Well, you look at that. St. Mary's played 6 more home games than those guys.
Yeah, their only road game in the non-conference was at Cal, so
Yeah.
they never
the
left.
Traffic there, it could take a while. With the Caldecott Tunnel getting to Berkeley from it's no small matter. So they probably maybe they spent the night in Berkeley for that.
Well, let's go out to the phone lines, 503-542-0910 if you've got a question for Coach Reveno. Pedro in Southern California is on the line. Welcome to the UP Coaches Show, Pedro.
All right, Jason, Coach Rev, how are you guys tonight?
Good, thank you.
Very good.
All right, good to hear you as usual on the Monday. Coach, I got to apologize to you. I gave you some bad information last time we talked. I said that I wouldn't see the Pilots till we were up there end of February. Lo and behold, my wife points out to me that you're going to be down here in Southern California next week, so we'll be there.
Yeah, I was going to give you a hard time for having something else on your social calendar besides besides the Pilots.
Some Portland Wahoos yelling, the Pilot Nation's down here, and we'll be yelling for you. And halfway through the season, you've had 2 solid wins to open up, and a really great, stunning upset/victory. And I was watching Philip Hartwich this past week. He's been a real nice bright spot. He's emerging. He's running the court real well. Just doing a lot of little things, good hands, good feet, and he's playing like a big guy with a lot of grace. So what do you see for the second half? I mean, what would you like to take from those victories, those bright spots this year, and put into the second half?
I think from a things we do well standpoint, I think our offense is very effective at times. I think we are very explosive. I think we're hard to guard. And I think defensively we've shown a willingness to do things. We just haven't been able to establish a consistency of doing those tough-minded things, whether it's rebounding, blocking off in rotation, and doing some of those things. And I think the guys have to realize, and we talked about it today, is I've at the turn here, as we head in the back nine, I think there's the strongest sense of the guys realizing that they've, for lack of a better term, have not been operating or hitting on all cylinders, and that we can do better. And the back nine, with getting get Gonzaga and St. Mary's at our place, to get some games, to get Santa Clara, USF at our place, get some home games. We got to start this weekend and get our confidence going a little bit. I think the Pacific game was interesting for me because I felt like offensively, what I'd like to see us do is in answer your question, I'd like to see us find an ability to really have an offensive swagger and a defensive toughness. Our offensive swagger gets lost when we start getting tight.
Sure.
Our guys are good kids. They really wanted to win that Pacific game, and we just didn't. We just didn't relax and just make the plays and just I don't know what it was. Defensively, I hope they embrace the challenge of really guarding. And one time after the San Diego game, we had a meeting in the locker room, and a player said, sometimes I think it just doesn't hurt enough when the other team scores. And we've got to embrace that mindset. So defensively, you can have that mindset of just sort of grinding it out, and offensively, we have the ability where I'm okay with them being a little bit loose and sort of aggressive, but with a swagger. So, I think there's a lot of basketball in front of us.
There sure is.
And so we're excited about putting it together, and how that WCC tournament goes, and putting it together in the back nine, and being strong in the end would be great.
I like that, the back nine. Well, I'm going to send you a California Quake from down here and get a tremor going, because you have a lot of young talent, and I see it. I've seen you guys since preseason practice, the preseason, up close in the WCC behind the bench, and up in the Bay Area, and I feel it coming. I feel a real nice win streak getting ready to happen with this bunch, and it's going to be contagious. So good luck this week, and we'll be seeing you down here next week, Coach.
All right, thank you. Look forward to it.
All right, thank you, Pedro. We will see you down there next week. Of course, this week, San Francisco, Santa Clara coming here to the Childs Center. And when we come back, we'll kind of get into the point where we said we're at the midseason, kind of taking a look at where things stand, and maybe some of the individual players who are coming on of late. DeMarcus Tyson has put together a nice string of games coming off the bench scoring, and talk about how they might come into see some more playing time down the stretch as we continue on here from the Pilot House on the UP campus. It's the Coaches Show on 910 ESPN Portland.
You're listening to Portland Pilots basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here again is Jason Bro.
Welcome back into the Pilot House here on the UP campus. Jason Swigart sitting in for Jason Bro tonight, along with head coach Eric Reveneau. And you can lob us a call, 503-542-0910, or you can tweet a question at Portland Pilots. Make sure you use the hashtag AskCoachRev. And we heard from Pedro there kind of talking about we're at the midway point here in the West Coast Conference season. And the Pilots 3-6 here, currently tied for 7th place, but you're just 2 games out of 4th place. BYU there at 5-3. San Francisco and Pacific at 4-5. So Santa Clara at 3-6, San Francisco 4-5 coming in. But overall, is there anything that's really surprised you in the conference so far? Teams exceeding expectations, maybe a little further back than maybe you thought they'd be at this point?
I would say the biggest surprise would be St. Mary's. I think they've had a favorable. No buts about it. They've played really well, and the level that they're playing at right now is surprising. Gonzaga not being having some they went down to the Bay Area and had 2 close games like we did, and were able to come out on top of both of them, and they and they should have maybe won at St. Mary's. So they're still doing very well, but they're not rolling through like people predicted in the beginning. I'm not that surprised by it, but that is a little surprising. I thought this year, might be the year that all the preseason predictions of them rolling through, and they try. I mean, I'm not saying they're not the gold standard of the conference. I'm just saying a lot of times the hype gets ahead of itself in the preseason. But with Karnowski going out, that made a big difference for him. And Sabonis plays unbelievably well in his absence. But that's a lot. That's a big, literally and figuratively, some big shoes to replace in Karnowski. And if you have Karnowski and Sabonis and Wiltshire, and all of a sudden it's a different team. After that, I don't think, you look at San Diego, LMU, Pepperdine. It's the LA schools, since I've been in the league, they sort of every year they sort of wonder which of their years, and they're tough to beat the LA schools. But they're in LMU still in rebuilding mode. San Diego is in the first year coach situation. Pepperdine kindly coming around. Pepperdine struggles offensively. They'll figure out a little bit. And Raines, I think their four-man is really key for them, and he's coming around. Defensively, they're very, very good. A lot of respect for them on the defensive end. Offensively, Stacey Davis, they're good. So not a big surprise there. And USF is a little bit up and down. Santa Clara is scary looking and having trouble putting it together. So, no, not a lot. BYU is kind of BYU. And so, no, not a lot of surprises.
As far as the Pilots are concerned here as we get set, DeMarcus Tyson coming off that big game against BYU off the bench, followed it up with double-digit performances both against Pacific and St. Mary's. Offensively, we've seen him just being a hot streak right now, and he's feeling like he's open the minute he comes across half court. But it's really his defense. It's been his entire game that's come around and given him some longer stretches and playing down the stretches of games that he wasn't necessarily doing earlier in the season. Yeah, no,
his defense and his rebounding has been a strong contribution to the team lately, and his commitment to doing that. And I think what's nice is it really takes pressure off him. Takes pressure off him as a shooter. But he's shooting the ball very well, like you said, and has a lot of confidence there. But he's contributing defensively and doing well there. Has a good sort of sophomore understanding now of what we're trying to do, and physically has gotten better. So that's really a credit to all the hard work he's put in. He's worked hard on the defensive and rebounding side of things. Wasn't something natural. Continues to work on his shot. So that contribution's been good. And we're hoping, sort of the defense rebounding, we can kind of start coming together a little better as a team and handle that.
And, of course, while we were there on the road trip at St. Mary's, Alec Wintering made his 1,000th career point and the 35th player in Pilots history to do so. Still just a junior, but, scoring 1,000 points in a college career, that kind of raises you up a level in significance. Just your thoughts so far on Alec, the season he's had, and what he's building together as a career here at Portland.
You know, Alex got a nice chip on his shoulder. He wants to be good. He's willing to work at it, and he's definitely doing that. And he wants to win. And he takes it as bad as anyone when we don't win. And you see him out there battling, and he has the ability to score the ball, get to the line, do some things. So no, it's exciting. I'm proud of him for what he's done so far. He should be. I gave him a heartfelt congratulations on achieving that. You know, it's not necessarily the goal you set out to do, or not necessarily, this year's objective. But like you say, it's a milestone. It's a milestone on a journey of becoming the best basketball player you can be, of contributing to the team, of leaving your legacy to the school. It's a lot of neat things about it. You know that are worth recognition.
But in that regard, we got a question tweeted in from Mark saying that Alec wasn't necessarily a big scorer in his first 2 years, but seemed like he could have if he wanted. Wanted to know what necessarily changed this year in the development as a player on his end with a new style of play for the team, and how much of the responsibility and how much more have you asked him to take a leadership role as far as scoring and offense?
From his standpoint, I think you've got to give him most of the credit in terms of, all the credit in terms of how he's improved. His ability to shoot the ball. He's shooting the ball at a high level in conference, and teams are actually playing him as a driver, but he can make them pay. He's really tough to guard right now, and he's really shooting the ball well, and he's worked hard at his shot. He's also changed his body in the weight room. He's gotten a lot stronger and more durable. You see him sort of sticking his nose in there both offensively and defensively. Alec is a tough kid, and it fits his style. And there's some things where, he doesn't need to be jumping in the air and doing some things sometimes. But other times he's willing to go in there and make a play. And he was rebounding the ball well early, and has been doing some a little bit lately. And it's just those kind of things. I think those have all improved. I don't think he was capable of scoring like he has this year in previous years. And then I think just his natural growth. And then the other thing would be the change in the offense, the movement of the spacing of the floor. Last year we had some very good post players, and the floor was set up differently a lot of times, and he didn't have the space. And now his style complements, and we knew that. We knew that last year, and that we talked about it, and willing and excited to make some changes in the pace of play, because he's the one. He's now got guys that are running with him, and our centers still run, but we've got wings that are running really well. And you let alone when you put Jazz and DeMarcus and some other scorer and Bryce and those guys on the floor together, getting out and running. And Alec can go. Alec can really go free throw line to free throw line, and. So now the team suits his style. Other personalities around suits his style a little bit more. So it's a combination of some things. I still think there's some improvement to be had there. I think we need more, some more balance in our offense between inside and out. Not necessarily straight post up, but dribble penetration to drop for a dunk, or drop. You see St. Mary's do it some where they get those high percentage stuff for their big guys, and get some more stuff like that, and so the offense coming together and defensively doing some things. But when we get stops and get out and run, Alec is great to have in charge. So,
well, thank you for the question, Mark, and we've still got another half hour to go here. You can call us at 503-542-0910, or send us a tweet at Portland Pilots with the hashtag AskCoachRev. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Coaches versus Cancer Weekend and some special recognition that we will be having here in Saturday's game at the Child Center against Santa Clara, as we continue on from the Pilot House here on the UP Coaches Show here on 910 ESPN Portland.
You're listening to Portland Pilots basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here's your host, Jason Bro.
Welcome back into the Pilot House here on the UP campus. Jason Swigart sitting in for Jason Bro as we are here with head coach Eric Reveneau. And this weekend, a very special weekend across college basketball's landscape. Coaches versus Cancer Weekend, where so many of the games will be used raising funds and awareness for cancer research. You get to wear the sneakers, so you don't have to wear the loafers. Is that more enjoyable? You feel like you're like more into it there when you wear the sneakers?
I think I'm more like the likelihood of getting a technical foul goes
up
just because I'm a little more active, feeling a little more spry on my
got
shoes.
More of a player's mentality than the coach?
I think so. I think that's an issue. But no, it's a Coaches versus Cancer weekend was started by the National Association of Basketball Coaches as a way to raise awareness, to use sort of the high-profile nature of college basketball to raise awareness. Some programs, we've done some neat things here, not directly related or tied in with this weekend, although we'll talk about the event we're having, or the recognition we're having before Saturday's game. But the Coaches Association, has different programs that will do different auctions and different events and raise money. But a lot of it's just a lot of TV airtime. I'm talking about whether it's the Jimmy V Foundation and different things that raise money to fight the battle against cancer. And it's one that resonates with, one of those things that kind of resonates with everyone. There's a lot of worthy causes. But this is one that the Coaches Association sort of decided to get behind and sort of touches everyone's life, unfortunately, in some way. And so it's good, and we'll wear the shoes and go from there.
Well, and this Saturday, prior to the tip for the Santa Clara game, there'll be a presentation with the Bravery Project PDX, and that benefits the Providence Cancer Center Integrative Medicine Program. And the project was started in 2015 by Carol Larson. She was mother, owned a boutique in Portland, a clothing designer, but was diagnosed with cancer in the spring of 2015. And so sharing her passion for design to help support future cancer patients and further research for small cell cancer. So all proceeds from the project get donated to the Providence Cancer Center's Integrative Medicine Program. And Carol will be there to present the game ball and a folded scarf in recognition of the program.
No, that's fantastic. Early on, there was a conversation. It was funny because they came down and we were talking about this. It's something to do, and we thought it was a great opportunity to do this with this really neat project. And they asked me if I'd wear a scarf for the game. I said, I don't want to wear a scarf for a game. And Karina, who is working with Duncan, setting this up, and they walked out. And I go, geez, at least I could do is wear a scarf. If I can't wear a scarf, so I don't think I'm actually wearing it. Then they came back and they talked about it, and I'm not. But I went back and told them, I said, I will, this woman's got this amazing program going and these really neat scarves, and I can wear a scarf if that will help. If they think it will help, I would be glad to do my small piece. And so, no, it's great to do something like that before the game. And
you can find out more about the Bravery Project PDX. Their Twitter handle is @bravery_PDX blog, or you can go online, braverypdx.wordpress.com. And, again, you'll see all these games on television all week long, but really over the weekend, coaches will be wearing the tennis shoes. And it just highlights it because everybody – that's really the thing. Everybody asks, why are the coaches wearing tennis shoes? And it gets the conversation going, and the awareness is the biggest thing. And then the individual games will have proceeds and fundraisers and things going on for people attending the games to find out more about it and make donations.
Yeah, and Nike's a great sponsor, and they get behind it and give us choices of different shoes to do it. And some programs will actually have the pink uniforms and do some special stuff around it. And even, like I said before, it's an opportunity for us, like this project here, to do something, to recognize something locally. Different programs will do something where they have, whether it's a coach's family member or someone in their community they want to honor. It just really lends itself well to that. And, I think it's always good for the student athletes to see that sort of involvement or sort of that civic responsibility and thought being put into how we represent and the potential impact we can have on the community.
No question. Again, it is the Bravery Project PDX. So that's @bravery_PDX blog or online, braverypdx.wordpress.com. And we look forward to having Kara at the game and getting a chance to meet her and listen to her story. And that leads us into these games coming up this week back home on campus. When we return, we'll start looking ahead. San Francisco Thursday night, Santa Clara on Saturday, and start to preview those games here with Coach Reveno as we continue on. It's the UP Coaches Show here on 910 ESPN Portland.
You're listening to Portland Pilots Basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here again is Jason Bro.
Welcome back in here to the Pilot House, hanging out with head coach Eric Reveneau. Jason Swigart sitting in for Jason Bro tonight. And time now where we start looking ahead and previewing these games. And now we start to see teams for the second time. San Francisco, Santa Clara coming in. The San Francisco, and I wonder how much a head coach uses the motivation of losses, of revenge within the game plan to keep guys, not to get them motivated. They should be motivated now, but I wonder how much the revenge factor comes in when you, especially the San Francisco game where you're shooting lights out for 30 minutes, 15-point lead, and then somebody turned the power off where you feel like you let one get away. Yeah,
I think the game where you let one get away just it kind of lends itself well to sort of getting that one back, and we definitely have to. I think we guys have that mindset and understand that's what we got to do, and at the same time they give San Francisco a lot of respect in terms of being a dangerous, good basketball team that. In a lot of ways, it's fighting for the consistency we've been fighting for, and we've got to, we're trying to get back on top of that consistency factor and start being the team that we're capable of being night in, night out on both ends of the floor, and it's probably no different than what they're trying to do. And so we've got to impose our will a little bit and go from there. That game down there was a strange one with the 62-51 or whatever it was halftime, and we neither not great defense played by either teams, just shooting, and then they throw out a simple zone, and we get the same open shots against the zone, and they stop falling for us, and we weren't able to get stops and to get them to get stops. So something that we definitely looking forward to rectifying on Thursday.
And when you go back and review that game tape again and start to put together a game plan or an approach to this, I'm guessing you can't really look too much at that first half, 62-51, and you don't expect that game to go similarly when you start out. So how much of that video review, where do you actually pull from and use versus saying?
You start with where you struggled. You start with, because if you're them, you're going to start with what you did that worked well against them. Maybe they did something in the first half that didn't work well, but they kind of liked it, and they think they can execute it better than they did. Although strategically it didn't work, and how they covered on-ball screens or something like that. So you look at that and say, okay, they were thinking to do this, and you look at it with in terms of the first half, you look at it with the idea is, okay, this didn't work the way they wanted to. What was their intent? What could they be doing? And then is that pieced together with what the other games? And then in the second half, you look at mainly it'll be more what could we have done better? Okay, we hit the guy for the open three, but could we have made an extra pass and gotten a layup? Could we have run something to get a layup or a dunk or something, or do something different, and given what they're doing? And so you basically start with what you struggled with. How did Tim Dirksen, how did he go 9 for 7 for 9, and 3 for 3 from 3, and 27 points on 12 shots? You take away those numbers, and it's a different ball game. So you'll look at that for sure.
And then how different. Assessing how different your team is right now with the emergence of DeMarcus Tyson. And also, we had Pedro talking about Phil Horowitz, who we've seen brief glimpses, and we saw it again in the second half at St. Mary's, where he kind of threw him in there and see if he could be 7-1, and he did. 3 block shots in the second half. Got a couple of dunks there, one on a putback and one on a nice drop, and showed the potential of what a 7'1" center could be. How does that change maybe how you might approach using different guys differently than you did against San Francisco the first time?
The biggest problem with and I'm actually answering a bigger question than the one you're asking, and that is the biggest problem is inconsistency, from game to game. And I think, like, you take Phillip and stuff, and, and so established players, trying to establish some consistency. I think some of it has to do with someone physically kind of unique like Phil, has to do with the matchups, and so us understanding, putting him in situations to be successful, which guys are good for him to be guarding and whatnot. And there were some things about the way we were not helping out, and that left fill sort of on the island, but with Nar and Rayhan driving at him, he was okay. And so that's a good experience for everyone to see that, okay, in those situations, he can actually do more work than necessary. He doesn't need someone to help, but then other ones maybe he can. So we got to do that. So learning what we can do as coaches to help have players be more consistent. They got to give the consistent effort, be a great teammate, and do that stuff consistently, which for the most part we do. And we got to figure things out. So for USF, yeah, DeMarcus is a little bit different player. I thought Max Livingston gave us some good minutes on Saturday. And I think we can do some guys could do some different things that maybe San Francisco wasn't right. It was different that time around.
And of course, halftime of that game, it'll be the halftime mile. So the members of the UP track team are going to take part in the annual halftime mile on the Chiles Center track. You're not involved in that, are you?
I think it's an open event, and Rob Connor says I have an invitation. I don't know how. The 15-minute time limit might affect my ability to, I'm already wearing shoes. I could wear running shoes, and I could go up and run. I think I could run. I could run a mile in 15 minutes. I'm sure of that. It's more like 10, 11 probably be about my pace, but so I wouldn't have much extra time, but I could do it.
And so that'll be going on. And the track team, I saw nationally ranked for the first time in quite a number of years since their 20th here. And so they are well underway, off to a good start this season. So you can see that halftime out there at the Chiles Center. That game Thursday night. That game also will be broadcast on Comcast Sportsnet Northwest. So and that's going to be produced here in-house and part of the partnership. So they're looking to grow that. And so if you can't make it down Thursday night, you can check it out on CSNNW. When we come back, our final segment, we'll take a look at Santa Clara and the preview for that one as well. Mascot night, that's always fun.
Yeah, no, it's a mascot night here is much improved from when I was at Stanford, and they had tree reunion night. So it was a really bizarre experience when I look out there at timeouts, and there was literally 30 different kinds of trees running around. Maybe not 30. Okay, I don't want to exaggerate too much. 15 to 20 trees running around, and they made their own costumes in these random-looking trees. It was just sort of bizarre. Mascots, I don't know. I'm a little more easy with. I like that a little better. So. Mascots doing silly things is always a good crowd pleaser.
It's always a good crowd pleaser. Fun to bring the kids out. So, we'll look ahead to Santa Clara here when we come back to the Pilot House. This is the UP Coaches Show on 910 ESPN Portland.
You're listening to Portland Pilots basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here's your host, Jason Bro.
Welcome back in here to the Pilot House. Jason Swigert sitting in for Jason Bro here.
I got you sidetracked with Stanford band stories.
Well, yeah. Well, as a former band geek, I was curious. You brought the trees up, and it went right into the band, and that'll be a conversation.
We got sidetracked.
But back here wrapping things up tonight, looking ahead, Santa Clara now on Saturday, coming in, and we look back to that game, Santa Clara. End of a full week in San Francisco. That was right after Christmas. The guys all got together. You were down there for the full week. San Francisco game got away from you late, and then the Santa Clara game was just strange. It was just a strange game. Offensively, just one of those ones, kind of like Pacific, where you kept yourselves in it all the time. The guys were fighting and clawing, but couldn't ever find some offensive consistency to match what they were getting from Brown Ridge and others.
Yeah, maybe it's in the eye of the beholder in terms of what I was looking at. The Santa Clara game, I feel like I think you're exactly right in your assessment in terms of the result. I think we were better Pacific-wise running some things and doing some things. I think Santa Clara they were both kind of ugly games, and we never found a rhythm. And I think we've got to really start defensively to get that rhythm going and get us going. That's the easiest way for us. I think the guys have bought into that. If we can get stops, get rebounds, different guys pushing it, and then all of a sudden things can start clicking for us, especially here at home, but we have to be able to do it on the road too. But right now, just taking care of business at home. Brown Ridge is very explosive scorer. I was watching the USF game from last week, and he scored their first 15 points. He had 15 points at maybe the 12-minute media. I mean, and then they started face guarding him a little bit more and doing some things. He's a special scorer, to score whatever he did against Arizona in that tournament on Thanksgiving. He scored 40-something against Arizona down in Anaheim over Thanksgiving, and he's that kind of scorer that, sometimes you think, well, maybe we just don't worry about him too much and let him score 50, and he could score 70 if you're not careful. He's one of those guys that could be your worst nightmare. So, and they've got some other guys. Coach Keating does a good job of getting those guys buying in their roles and whatnot. Their post players do their job well. They screen, they rebound, they get putbacks, they run the floor, they give them some physicality, some good fouls. And then they've got the freshman guard, whose name escapes me right now, who's playing well. And they've got some other pieces, so some guys that can put it together.
And as opposed to the San Francisco game where everybody was shooting lights out there, where maybe you can't look back, I get the sense you thought the game plan was solid in the guys, and you expect a similar type of game as that Santa Clara game. That's more a matter of honing in on the details and the execution and some of the finer points where that game film you can go back and say, hey, we were doing everything right. We just either didn't finish or you didn't see the last pass or pass it off to the last defender to stop him. We were in right positions sort of situation.
Yeah, the league is such, even with the team that maybe his record's struggling, the league is such that if you don't come ready to play or you don't execute well, you won't have a chance. So to go on the road and be in position where you had a chance at that game, we had to do a lot of things right. To your point, though, you kind of focus on the things that you didn't quite do right. And from a coach's standpoint, there's not a lot of plays where you look at and go, that was perfect, we just missed a shot. Most plays, there's always something you can do better. And as a coach, we're trying hard to put our guys in position to be successful. And our job is to put them in position to be successful. We talked about Alex success scoring this year, and some other guys having some, DeMarcus having some success, and that's what coaching is. Well, we need to get more guys where we're putting that together, and guys are able to be where they need to be to make the plays they can make. And so that's what we're trying to do. And each game now, the second time around, is a little bit of that cat and mouse with the other coach, trying to figure it out. What are you going to change? Sometimes you walk off the floor and you're like, I'm changing this, and this, and you learn those lessons. Or sometimes you're watching film and the light comes off, the light goes on, and you feel like you've got something figured out.
Well, and I guess as you look at it as a whole, maybe coaches don't do this as much as we do in the media, but looking at the second half, 3-6 in conference going in, trying to really set things up and be in position at this point. Do you look at it as being in position to make a run in the West Coast Conference tournament to have something special happen, or are you still focused more on the next two games and still developing the team and playing out the string?
It's really just like you focus on guys want to win. I mean, and guys want to put together things in the tournament. Our job as coaches is to focus on what needs to get done to be there. What do we have to do to be the best team we can be and put it all together.
We'll see if we got time for a quick call. Ed in Camas joining us here quickly, Ed, if you can.
Hey, Coach. Hi, Jason. Hey, Coach, if you think you could get that mile time down to, say, 11 minutes, we may be able to get some wagers going and make some money for coaches for cancer.
Hey, that's not a bad call right there. That's not bad. I appreciate the thought there. I think I could get. I'd put the over/under at 10 minutes even myself. I'd like to think with a few people cheering, the race environment, I could get her under 10.
We may hold you to that.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, I didn't know if you have time to talk about maybe where you halfway through the conference schedule, what you're maybe a little ahead of, doing maybe better than you thought, and maybe some things that you thought maybe you'd be a little better on and you're not.
I think our offense is about where I thought it would be. I think the things we did, and Randy Bennett said it before the game that to one of the assistant coaches, like he's been impressed with our changing of our offensive system. That's not an easy thing to do with a player like Bryce Presley and some veterans. So that's not a small thing that we've accomplished there, and I think the guys get all the credit for doing that, and the assistant coaches in terms of the skill development this summer, and we're doing a good job there. That said, I think offensively getting our posts involved more, even on drop-offs. Like you said, Max had a great one to getting more plays like that, some high percentage stuff. Offensively is key. And then defensively, I think just being consistent. I think our effort's good, and then lo and behold, we're not executing and some game plan things, and we're leaving the wrong. The Kyle Wiltshire open for a 3 syndrome. That's just not. You can't win games doing that, making those kinds of mistakes, and that's coaching and preparation and what we're doing to put guys in position to be successful. And then some of it's execution, and we work on that together. And then rebounding the ball. I knew we weren't going to be a great rebounding team, but we need everyone gang rebounding and doing what they can.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
All righty, that'll wrap it up for tonight's Coaches Show. Again, home games this week, both 7 o'clock starts. San Francisco Thursday night, Santa Clara Saturday night. We would love to see you out here at the Chiles Center. So, Coach, we'll see you Thursday night. Hopefully the guys will have a good week of preparation and be ready to turn it on down the stretch.
Yeah, they had a great day today. We had a good practice today. I should have mentioned that. And so another good one tomorrow. Lighten up on Wednesday and go get them on Thursday.
We'll go get them. Again, PortlandPilots.com is where you go for ticket information. Thanks to Jesse back in the studio. Thanks to Jose here for getting me straight. Thanks as always, Coach.
Thank you.
We'll see you Thursday night here for San Francisco. That'll wrap it up for us. I'm Jason Swigard. Have a very good night.
This has been Portland Pilots Basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau. Tonight's show was brought to you by Employee-Owned Weimart, by your local Les Schwab Tire Center, the Oregon College Savings Plan, by Buffalo Wild Wings, U.S. Bank, by Safeway, and by Play Smart Health Screenings from Providence Heart and Vascular Institute. Join us for University of Portland basketball all season long on the home of the Pilots, 910 ESPN Portland. 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 910 ESPN Portland.